everyone. Welcome again to another edition of Sonic Tonic Experience. I'm Darren Kramer here in Denver, Colorado with my good friend and vocalist, Amy Biondo. Amy, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
We've been playing in bands for years together, and then now we've collaborated on your great song called Invisible with You, and we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of what it takes to write songs, write lyrics, create a demo, and then turn it into a final professional recording. And it was a lot of fun doing this all last year. I've mostly known her as a singer in a Latin and rock band that we've played in for years, our good friend Ricardo Pena and Mark Diamond. And it could be anywhere from a 5-piece to a 9-piece band, and it's a lot of fun. Then I started realizing that Amy, she wrote songs as well. And so then she had always been offering, hey, do you have any songs you might want some lyrics written to? And I did have one, and then I didn't ever give it to her, and then ended up writing the lyrics to that particular song myself. And I feel really good about it. It was a fun process, but it kind of kept coming up. And then next thing she knows, she says, well, I have this new song. Maybe we could do something together with it. And maybe we don't know in what capacity. So last year, 2021, we started collaborating on it, and it's really exciting. So why don't you tell us how the song started in your head?
Oh, yeah. I want to hear that song that you wrote the lyrics to, by the way. Did you record it?
I will. No, it's not recorded yet. Yeah.
Okay, but I want to hear it. So this particular song, different, when I write, different parts of the songs will come through first.
Yeah.
I would say I'm mostly melody driven as a singer. I think that's probably fairly common. But this particular song, the bass line just came through. And I want to say it was a dream that I had. I think I woke up hearing that in my head. So then I went down, I figured it out on the piano, and I put it in my phone. And at the time my kids were really little, I don't know, 2 and 4 or something like that. And so I recorded it, and then I kind of forgot about it. And then literally, I think it was a year later, then I heard this. Then I recorded that into my phone, and then I was just going through my voice memos, and I think it was another year later, literally, because this is mom times, things can happen slowly. And I was just oh, what's this? Oh, what's this? And then I realized, oh, they're in the same key. And then I was oh my God, I think they fit together. I think this is actually the same song. So then I started just playing what melody wants to go with this. And then for the lyrics, often I'll just start kind of journaling, and I'll write a very kind of free-form poem, just images or ideas, or maybe it'll rhyme, maybe it won't rhyme at all, and just kind of getting things out there. And then I'll just see what strikes me. There's certain images or a certain statement that's compelling, and then I'll just kind of go with that and start to flesh it out. I think it was right around the time that I turned 40, or maybe a little bit later.
Your life's almost over then, so you got to get busy.
If there's stuff you're going to do, you got to start doing it, yeah. But, something I noticed is I would be in the grocery store in the before days, and, I'm just kind of walking down the aisle, and a man would be walking the other way, coming toward me, and there'd just be some kind of moment of recognition, or eye contact, or maybe a smile, or just some feeling of being seen. Not even he was hitting on me or something, but just I'm human, you're human, we're in the grocery store, hi, here we are. And then that stopped happening at some point. And I was just what? And it was weird. It was kind of being in this alternate reality or something, waking up in this other world where somebody changed the rules, but I didn't know there even were rules. And, so then I just started kind of noticing more and more this privilege that I had as a younger woman that I didn't even realize I had. I realized the absence of it then. And then I started realizing oh, then I also don't have some old man touching my elbow in the cereal aisle saying smile, honey, or, just the ways that people feel they can intrude on your space.
Yeah.
And I feel like men don't, if they do experience that, I think it's very different than the way that women do. People feel this certain like entitlement to like
Hmm.
touch you or say things to you or get in your space in some way. So then people were leaving me alone, which was actually such a relief. Like I can just be kind of anonymous, you know? So it was like this concept of like invisibility. Like I started to feel like I had become invisible. That same guy walking down the aisle just like looked right through me like I was a ghost or something.
Yeah.
But then I was like, invisibility is kind of cool. Kind of like the Harry Potter invisibility cloak, you know, you can like do whatever you want, nobody knows. And then I started really like running into these other invisible women and just developing these really amazing friendships with these older women. And we would talk about this kind of invisibility thing and just seeing how willing these women were to just like live life on their own terms, be who they were, make choices that felt right for them, like that felt in accordance with their own values,
Yeah.
and less about like pleasing people or doing the right thing or doing the thing everybody wanted them to do, but like what am I on this earth to do and how do I do that? And how do I like really embody that? So that's what the song ended up being about, like that process. Somebody changed the rules. This is weird. And then, like, oh, but now I get to live life in this way.
That concept is great because that's really that thing of saying instead of controlling the situation, you observe it and then you put a new perspective on it. And how can you learn from it instead of trying to muscle it into this one little area, right? So one thing I find interesting about the composing process, because I've written a lot of songs myself, and I've written about 17 or so songs with lyrics too, even though I'm
Oh,
not a singer. I just took on the challenge and I've enjoyed the process, but every time I've written it as usually the chord progression first, some
mm,
4 bar progression, and then as I play that or record it and hear it back, then I start to hear a melody. And then when I have a cool melody, then I come up and go, oh yeah, I'm hearing this line over it with the rhythm of the melody. And then I might tweak the melody because it's really cool to have this word in there.
yeah,
Um,
totally.
what you mentioned you woke up and had a bass line in your head, and then a while later you had the revelation that this other thing you had written, maybe those go together. And is that the start of this, or now are the lyrics to Invisible coming from another area?
You know, it was a while ago, so I don't completely remember. I think it was like I want to give birth to this song, and that was just like a topic that was on my mind. So I think I probably wrote it as a poem first and then just started to sing the poem. Sometimes I'll also dance just to feel like the heartbeat of the song and the rhythm, and then the melody can kind of hang on that. It just sort of shakes it out of me somehow.
And at what point did you realize these lyrics could go with that song?
Yeah, so the lyrics I think were written for that song. I'm
Oh,
pretty
okay.
sure. Yeah.
I mean, so you had the tempo, the kind of groove, and
Right.
the vibe of it.
The vibe, exactly.
Because that matters, right? Because of how many words you're going to put into a certain line and stuff. It's way different if it's this fast, funky tune versus a ballad, right?
Completely. Yes, yes. And I think because that chord progression is so repetitive, it gave me a lot more freedom to go a lot of different places with the melody. I have like quite a vocal range, and I like sometimes I stay within a narrower range, but with this song I just wanted to kind of explore all those little corners of my voice, so I just had a lot more latitude to do that. I didn't have to like really shoehorn it into this tricky chord progression. It was just like very simple, and then the
Nice.
melody could be more complex because of that.
Now, then you sent me your recorded demo, which was you sitting at the piano playing the chords and singing.
Hmm.
And had you done that a while before sending it to me, or did you say I got to get this in some sort of a form where I could share it with somebody?
Yeah, actually, what I was doing, I was taking a songwriting workshop at the time. And so, as part, I think it was an 8-week workshop, and we had to write a song a week. So, when I was doing that workshop, then I finally like finished up the song because there were like a few parts that I hadn't filled out yet. Um, So yeah, I finished it up, and because I'm not a really strong piano player, and that's putting it pretty mildly, I got the piano chords into GarageBand. I did some like cutting and pasting and copying and all that stuff, and then sang over it when I had the chords in there.
Separately, yeah.
Hmm.
Well, this is what this podcast is about. So I like to interject in these parts and say, to encourage people to do more themselves. We're here to inspire and share what we know, and hopefully that other people will make more music. And fear and perfection stop those any sort of output, creative output. And you and I talk about that too. Everybody has it. It's whether or not you just notice it and then you step past it and into the unknown. And
Completely.
you could have easily said, well, my piano playing stinks, so now I can't really make a demo of this. There's two things. You could ask for help and get somebody who plays piano or guitar or something, or you could learn it yourself and then just deal with your inadequacies and say, well, this is where I am at this moment in time. And
Hmm.
that's always a great choice. There's nothing bad about it, right?
Yeah, and then just to have the challenge of like I had to kind of figure out how to play it on the piano because I heard it in my head. I heard it exactly how I wanted it. But even to like come up with what chord is that, it was a little bit cumbersome for me. And then I had to teach myself to play it, and then I had to record in a garage band and the whole thing. But it was a great challenge as well.
So let's listen to a little segment of her demo and show you what we're talking about.
Every time I say goodbye, it's another hello. And every time I rise above, it's another below. I'm in a different world, it's strange and new. I realize I'm feeling fine.
So yeah, a year and a half, 2 years ago, just a segment of Invisible with You. That's a great example of vocalists out there, get something on tape, either play it yourself or find a friend to help record it, pay someone to record it, and to document. Music's about the sound, so having it written down isn't nearly as good as just recording it. Um, but then I was impressed also, Amy, that then I said, do you happen to have a lead sheet or have any chords to this? And you actually did. And that's very helpful for someone like me, where if I'm going to try to add in some new parts, I don't have to figure it all out. Anything to save time is always good because
Yeah,
time is our only asset you could never get back.
that's right.
You could never replace it.
Can I
Um,
give a little pep talk for the vocalists out there
Please.
as well? Because I am a vocal coach, and this is part of what I do is inspire people to really find their own voices and find the
Yes.
courage to really put themselves out there. But I think with vocalists, a lot of us have had the experience of instrumentalists, not all instrumentalists, but some of them, you feel like they're kind of looking down on you a little bit, or you maybe, not all of us went to music school, not all of us play an instrument well, not all of us know a ton about music theory. Some vocalists do and some vocalists don't. But if you're someone that doesn't, that's more coming from like maybe you've learned to sing more organically, or you've had voice lessons, but maybe not so much of like the music theory background. There can be a feeling of like, oh, I'm less than, or I'm doing, I'm not like on the same level as these other musicians. And I just think it's so important to remember that with the voice, for one, it's so vulnerable, like way more vulnerable than any other instrument because you are the instrument. So when you're singing, it's like the resonation of all the inside of your body creating sound, going into someone's ear, being processed by their brain. It's like literally a part of you is going into this other person. So there's that aspect of it. And then that's also what makes the voice so beautiful and so like it hits people in this way, And
Yeah.
not to say like instruments don't do that as well, but there's something about the voice and our ability to use language to tell a story. It just has this magic to it. So maybe I can't play something really fluidly on the piano, or maybe it takes me a little while to tell the drummer what I want because I don't have the exact language to tell him or her what I'm thinking. I have to play it on my legs, or maybe I have to communicate in a different way. But like for singers to just remember, like you have something that no one else has. Like no one else can do what you do. And then if there's things like you're not so great at making a chart or you're not so great at playing an instrument, yeah, like ask for help, or just like the demo I gave you. I mean, this, it's like obviously super rough around the edges, but it was like I just wanted to convey to you, like, here's the song, here's what I'm thinking about, and to just kind of let that perfectionism drift away and just think about it more like I have nothing to feel ashamed of. I don't have to hide anything. I don't have to pretend that I went to music school if I didn't, but just to like really trust that you have this other thing that is so incredibly valuable, and just like do the best you can. That's
It's
all anybody
100%.
wants.
That's right. That's all you can do. Um, Everybody has strengths and weaknesses, and it's good to acknowledge those, try to discover those, and really decide whether the weaknesses are worth bringing up, because that takes time. Now, it depends maybe on your age too. I don't know. I mean, if you're at college as a freshman, you're only 18, and if you're thinking, I'm going to be a singer-songwriter, it would be helpful to learn the language of music. Um, on the other hand, some of the most successful people in the world can't read or write music, and somehow they made it happen. And
Hmm.
so there's no right or wrong. Um, I love that subject because it's so true, right? And vocalists are sensitive to it, and musicians are sensitive to it. And from the musician side, the reason it would be frustrating is you're literally trying to speak Japanese with this person, but they don't speak Japanese.
Hmm.
So, um, little nouns thrown out there, you can kind of interpolate what they mean, and then you can move forward. But it's certainly easier if you're both fluent.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
and so, I think you're a good example of it. you're you're at a level where we can communicate, and it was pretty easy and a lot of fun. And
Totally.
and like that, I just threw that out there. I don't know if you have a lead sheet. You produced it, and it wasn't even handwritten. It was actually in printed. So it's clear. It gives me a nice template to work with, and then you can go back and forth. And the whole reason for a demo is it is a demo. It's not the final product. So everybody
Yeah.
could put that on their list and go, let me get a demo of all my songs. Make that a nice priority. And I love that you said you took the class and it forced you one song a week.
Yeah.
That's you gotta put in a lot of action, and then you gotta set aside your ego and your perfectionist side, because
Oh my God, completely. Yeah.
Friday's coming again. You gotta get it out. So that's
That's
a
right.
nice practice, isn't it?
Yeah, this is a great class through Golden Lotus Studio with Gary Grundy. I highly recommend it to anybody who wants to get more into songwriting and just needs a little bit of a push. Because that was the other thing that I needed to get over, was like really allowing my music to be seen and heard and witnessed. And I was like, I don't know if it's good. But we were all writing a song a week. Some of them were good, some of them were crappy. We're all just posting things, and then we're all just commenting, I love this language, or I love the way your voice sounded here. I love this chord progression. and just getting used to putting something out there and hearing how people received it.
Yeah.
And it really helped me get over this like reticence and ambivalence that I had around like being seen and being heard. Like, I think part of the reason I'm a singer is because I was ignored a lot as a child. So it was like the only way anyone would pay attention to me is to get on stage, sing into a microphone. And so in some ways, like all I want is for people to pay attention to me. But then when they do, I'm just like, I don't
Isn't that
know.
isn't that interesting? Why do you think that is?
Mm, I mean, I think it's like to really be seen and heard is vulnerable. It's back to that vulnerability again, right?
But why? That's an interesting thing, though. Why do you want it? You think you want it, then you get
Yeah.
it. And it's this thing, Jim Carrey and all that saying he wants everyone to be rich and famous, because then you'll realize that ain't the answer. You're still not
Mm,
happy. I mean,
mm,
because now
mm-hmm.
you have to deal, well, like with your topic of invisible. Now you're either being too much attention or you're not have any attention, and you're always looking at lack. And now I want this other thing that I don't have.
Yeah,
It's a good thing to be aware of, right?
completely.
Um, well, let's jump in and show uh, the viewers a little bit of how this came about. I use a program called Ableton Live, and it's great for creating music and recording, and also
For live, because that's what I use with my group Electrohorns.
it just happens to be the DAW that I use, digital audio workstation. And so we just had listened to the demo a little bit, and now what's the step? Well, what do you do to get to take this raw materials and turn it into something? Now, a lot of times you could just record it with a better mic, do a bunch of takes, have a real drummer, have a real bass player, have a pianist, and you record it that way. Um, my understanding when you approached me was, how can we do this effectively and economically and turn it into something? And so I'm a real jazz lover, but I'm also really always into pop music and contemporary stuff too. So I started hearing that bass line as, well, I don't know, maybe we can treat it a little more modern. And so I remember getting something together and playing it for you, and I didn't know if you'd like it or not.
Every time I say goodbye, it's another hello. And every time I rise above, it's another below. I'm in a different world, it's strange and new. I realize I'm feeling fine. I'm feeling fine. I'm feeling fine, 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 fine.
So even something like that, it was kind of fun for me to just, I remember asking you too, what do you have some concept, or should I just kind of give it my treatment as a demo back to you? And then I remember you saying, no, yeah, just do your thing on it and we'll see where we meet in the middle. And
Mm-hmm.
it it was a fun process, and I didn't know if you'd like some of that stuff. Here's verse 2, check, where there's a lot harder, like a really kind of official drum groove.
Every time I get ahead, it's another behind. And lately when I play the game, all the
And so not only the sounds are really important for the overall effect of a song, but it really is also the form. And you and I addressed the form on a few segments too. Like, I think we even shortened the chorus, the first chorus, and only did a half. And then we had this whole interlude section. You had your own bridge interlude section that kind of took it left of center.
invisible women. outside with some wine and a friend at the restaurant. Invisible women.
And we discussed that and try to figure out whether or not that was something we still wanted to include. So what were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, that was such an interesting moment. I remember that really clearly. Because it was like the bridge wanted to be in there when I wrote it. And then as we started allowing it to take this other shape, at some point it just became obvious like, well, that fits with the first version of the song, but this version doesn't want that. And it's hard to kind of say it in another way, but I think I kind of like hung in there with it and like, well, maybe we change it a little bit, or maybe we do this or that, or maybe I have to rewrite part of it. And then at some point it was like, actually, it doesn't even need a bridge because we're building it in these other ways. You know, if it was just like my band, 5-piece band, like there's a certain feel and sound to it. But like if you're building it in Ableton with all these other textures and percussion and different things, like it actually, I feel like the purpose of a bridge in a song is often to just kind of like ratchet up the intensity, take it in a little bit of a different direction, like add more interest. And it didn't have that trajectory. It was more like here and then bigger and then adding more, and then adding more, and then like this whole breakdown thing. So it was fun to just like let the song be what it wanted to be rather than like, no, but this was my idea.
That is powerful to say and even more powerful to do because it's hard to do it because of ego and pride and I don't know what else. And I have that as well. And it's really interesting collaborating, which is what this podcast is how do you work together and create something that didn't exist in the same way. And I got to commend you because you were open to it from the beginning, and I wanted to understand where you were coming from, where this section of the song and what purpose will it serve this version. So that is a good point. Once you start the journey, it is different than all the planning. And our good friend Ricardo went and attempted climbing Mount Everest twice now. And he's a mountaineer and a great musician, singer, guitar player, piano player, and composer. And you can plan your expedition all you want, but you still got to fly to Nepal. And you still got to make the trek to base camp, and then it starts. And just getting to that point is a real adventure. And so there's nothing better than starting and then go, how does this fit in to the new vision, not to what you were a year or 5 years ago?
Exactly. And just to go a little further with that analogy, one of the years that Ricardo tried to climb Everest was when they had those big avalanches and people were dying. And so he thought he was up there to climb the mountain, but then he ended up like being up there doing CPR and like helping people. So it was not what he expected, but that was obviously what the situation required.
And so it's a new situation. How do you address it?
Exactly.
And I think music's really a great teacher in that way, where you could sit there and go, what does the song need? Not me. And I like that you said that before about you're kind of a conduit. You're channeling this song and writing it down. And I think a lot of people feel that way. It's a really great way to be, because you're just the one that's putting together all these things. You're not really creating it, maybe.
That's always how I feel, for sure. And I'm not just being humble. Like I really do feel like it comes from this other place.
Yeah. And there's a lot of gratitude in that. The beauty of recording is you have so many other options. So you gave me just one vocal on the demo, but then when we get to a chorus, maybe we should double it, or maybe we should make 4 doubles of 4 harmonies. And so then that's where we come to stuff like this.
Be invisible, I'll say it's better than playing the fool. The more I learned, the less I knew. And here I stand in search of something new. Before my very eyes, invisible women falling from the skies. I see your arms are open wide, and now I'll be invisible with you.
That's great.
This is super fun.
Yeah, and I've always noticed that to be one of your strengths on the Ricardo gigs, where you guys have such tight harmonies and you have that ability to just fit in and find the harmony and then sing it in tune. Do you have any, where did you learn to do that?
Oh, wow. You know, I grew up in kind of a TV watching family, but I was always a musician, an artist, dancer, musician, seamstress. I do costume design as well. I've always been like super artsy fartsy girl. So I remember like the rest of my family in the family room like watching TV, but then there was this little corner of the family room where the record player was, and I had my little headphones, so I would like sit there. I was like 5 or 6. I'd just be going through my parents' record collection. So they had like a ton of Beatles albums, and so I remember like listening to those and just listening and like learning all the different harmonies. And then I remember when it was like a while later, then I was in chorus, and you know, we learned a lot of classical music, classical harmonies and stuff like that. But then I remember the moment where I realized I could create my own harmonies, and this was like when I was obsessed with Paul Simon's album Graceland. And this was in high school at some point, and there's a song on there, what's the name of it? The duet that he does with Linda Ronstadt. It's like about the nativity story, the Christmas story.
Uh-huh.
So beautiful. I love this song. But they're singing in thirds. And then I started listening to the rest of the album. And then I was just singing in thirds for the rest of the album. I was like, oh my God, I could like make my own harmony. And then I just like went ballistic, and just everything I listened to, I was creating my own harmonies to the point where my mom and my sister were like, will you just stop?
Shut up!
Like, I can't stop. Sorry.
Just listen.
No, I can't do it. So, I mean, for me, it was pretty intuitive, and just, I think like exposure, you know, the more you listen to really tight harmonies, really interesting intervals and interesting lines, it just starts to become a part of you, and you start to hear things more in that way.
Yeah, and it was neat capturing some of the sessions that we did.
That's the hard note to get. This life is mine.
I was saying, you as the songwriter, what do you hear? And you're like, I think this. And then it started getting a little more in depth. And now if it's these inner harmonies, what are they? And that's one of my specialties, of not necessarily just hearing it, but I know what it is theoretically.
Right.
And so it would make sense if it was this note. So then I would play those couple of notes to you, get it in your ear, give you a 2-bar lead in, and then I couldn't believe how quickly you could just latch onto that, because it's a very confusing process, and there's a lot of people that cannot do that. So that was really fun for me, because then I was just going, how about something a little more gritty? What if you sang these 2 notes, and those inner voicings are kind of wacky? It's not the same as the melody. And I play it for you a couple times. Here it comes. Boom. Give me a couple takes of that, and then it starts to really take shape, and it comes alive.
And I see what is near. I see a million women standing round, invisible, and just like me.
Yeah, that was really fun. I was struck by that too, in the moment of how like my approach is more like, this feels like it would be right, or this sounds like it would be right. And then you're over there on the piano, well, here's the chord and here's the 7th, so let's try to hit this. And it was like peanut butter and jelly. It was like, we just like went so well together, you know?
Yeah,
it's like,
I think that's important to promote too, really. I think ultimately it's how it feels, how it sounds. But right underneath that is thought and intelligence, and I like to try to find that gap right in the middle, and go lead with your ear, but then maybe your mind can figure out the couple of problems you're having.
Exactly. And then you can trust your ear to tell you, oh, this is a problem, this doesn't quite sound right. And we had our moments like that as well.
What was that part here? What was that in the verse 3? I think it was
My eyes are
this.
open wide, and I see what is.
That ding just makes me so happy.
Oh yeah, that's a nice ding. That
Oh
was
God.
that was after the fact, but yeah, I remember you kind of wanted some sus2 voicing on that line.
My eyes are open wide.
And then I was like, well, let's make it more like the minor triad. And we tried that, and then we tried something even more weird and also resolving, and notice that we don't. It just goes, you just cut off instead of but and resolves.
I'm so glad we didn't resolve it. That's way cooler the way it is.
And I like the fact that we discussed it. You're hearing it, something's bugging me. It's still not right.
Yeah.
And then you start shaping it a little bit more and going, well, what about this? What about this? And I remember sometimes then I gave you a copy of it, and you listen to it, and then we'd talk 3 days later and say, well, what do you think? Actually, I don't want it to resolve, And so then, and
I think
so
that's a good point, Darren, as well. Like really allowing the space, like taking your song for a walk or like recording it. Don't even listen to it for a week and then listen with fresh ears and see what you think, because you get so used to living with something that you start to lose your perspective on it.
yeah,
So,
that part
you
is
know,
so
don't
interesting
rush
because
it.
it's a great way to learn is focus in. We're only working on that chord, ooh, da. But you get so used to that sound that it sounds normal, even if it's this weird voicing. Then you take 3 days off. You're out walking around the lake. You listen to it in context of the song. So then
Exactly.
we're 2 minutes in, and all of a sudden this weird thing comes in, and you're like, it just sounds wrong. It feels
Right.
wrong. So then it might be right for its own thing, but how is it in context? Which is why
Yeah.
this subject is so fascinating, and why I
Yeah, and
tied it in
just-
with food, because it's the same thing, just eating this, but if you pair it with this drink or this certain wine or this certain food, it will have a different experience, Yeah.
Yeah,
don't-
and like, what does the song want? Maybe it's like a cool thing that you really like, but in the context of the journey of the song, it's just not what the song wants. I mean,
Which-
back to the bridge, that we took out because it wasn't really like in the journey of the song. But then I just did a performance a couple of weeks ago with my 5-piece band, and I put the bridge back in, but I did take out that little weird like 3/4 section. But I just kind of reworked it. We did another chord change, and it just like it made sense in that context with that instrumentation. And then I was, going back and forth with the drummer, and so like in that with that constellation of people in that performance situation, it made sense. But then in this other version, it just didn't. So I think flexibility of mind is this kind of common thread to this whole podcast. And what we've been talking about, like the more you have that openness and flexibility, then you can like let go of your ideas and be willing to either incorporate someone else's ideas or for like a new idea to hit you and come through. But if you just go into it like, no, this is my baby and it's this way, you're going to miss stuff.
And I think this carries over into just general life. And I think that's one thing that's gotten skewed a little bit with humanity through the whole pandemic and everything is a little bit of kindness, a little bit of open-mindedness, an abundance mindset of, let me share what I have with you. Let me help you. Let me learn more. And the extremes are almost never good of anything. And so to be a little more willing to learn from the situation. And so that's a very cool thing where you're saying, and if you've only worked on one song ever, you've written one song, you're going to have different views when it's your 100th song.
Right.
Meaning, well, okay, yeah, I didn't put that weird chord in there, but I put that in 4 other songs.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
in
Yeah,
this
right.
one,
If you have to lose something, you don't have to feel like you've lost it forever. Like it might come, maybe that's a whole other song that wants to be written.
that's a great point. So it all doesn't need to go into one thing, and that's
Right.
total scarcity. And I think
Exactly.
we all feel that from our first songs, our first CD. You know, it's like you're first born, and it's like this really unique thing. And then after that, you've gained new experience. You know, so it's a anybody out there that's writing songs, just do it. Walk through that. It's really a smoke screen of fear because it's really not that bad on the other side. Now we're excited to start getting it out there and have the opportunity and open no limits of where this song could maybe be used because this theme is so universal with so many women
Yeah.
feeling empty inside and not seen. And then the different sections of this song, it kind of evolves stylistically. So
Yeah.
we're gonna we can cut out just the last 16 bars and submit that, and maybe that can be part of a movie credits or a commercial on TV or some kind of an ad or some kind of a theme for a podcast or TV show. There's just so many possibilities, and
Lots of possibilities. And for the songwriters out there, if you write a song with really distinct sections, it can be really a lot more marketable in terms of being licensed because there might be like one particular section that somebody really wants for something that
yeah,
has a different feel to it. So if you kind of think about your writing in that way, letting the song evolve and maybe like the end has a really different vibe or you're in a really different place than the beginning, it just gives kind of more options for ways the song could be used.
yeah,
And before we finish up here, I think it's worth comparing some of the different sections of the song because it's really kind of fascinating how they developed and ended up being so different throughout this process. So here's a little bit of verse 1.
Every time I say goodbye, it's another hello. And every time I rise above, it's another below. I'm in a different world, it's strange.
So you can hear it's really sparse, but I think still modern because of the Rhodes keyboards and we have that shaker and it's still just presenting itself, but in a jazz pop way. Now then, check out verse 2. We decided to up it a little bit and bring in the drum loop.
Every time I get ahead, it's another behind. And lately when I play the game, all the others go blind. Somebody changed the rules when I was asleep.
So you can hear there's a little bit of doubling with the vocals, but the overall energy has been lifted. And then we do the first chorus, which we ended up turning into just a half a chorus, just to kind of present that material. But then now here's verse 3 after that, and we kind of seemed like it made sense to go back to kind of more of a sparse thing, but there's a little more production effect.
And now I'm on the other side. The situation is clear. And now my eyes are open wide. And I see what is near. I see a million women standing round invisible. They're just like me.
And you can hear there that then I introduced the strings, which are all MIDI, by the way, but it kind of gives it a little more orchestral building effect. All right, so let's check out the 3 choruses. First one's just a half chorus.
Oh, I may be invisible. While I'll say it's better than playing the fool. The more I learned, the less I knew. And here I stand in search of something new. And now I'm on the other side. The situation is clear.
It's one of my favorite parts of the song, coming out of that half chorus, and then the way the Amy, your vocals sound, and the way we doubled it, and then those background vocals kind of presenting the lyrical material before the main vocals actually sing it. It's a special moment. But so here's the main chorus, chorus 2, and it turns into kind of a double chorus. And then I love the way, Amy, you put the build up, the whoa, whoa, whoa section, and this is a nice part.
Oh, I may be invisible, while I'll say it's better than playing the fool. The more I learned, the less I knew. And here I stand in search of something new. Before my very eyes, invisible women falling from the skies. I see your arms are open wide, and now I'll be invisible with you. Whoa, 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 whoa.
So yeah, that starts to really build and get exciting. Like, where is this thing going? And then we decided that was to take it up a few notches, because we ended up modulating up a whole step, stacking the vocals with 8 parts, so they're really huge, introducing a new bass sound, which is this pulsating synth bass, which gives it this real modern EDM dance pop feel. And then we added horns, which is my specialty. I played trombone, and then we added the only other live musician on this recording, which is my sister Dawn Kramer on trumpet.
All I'll say is better than playing the fool. The more I learned, the less I knew. And here I stand in search of something new. Before my very eyes, invisible women falling from the skies. I see your arms are open wide, and now I'll be invisible with you.
That's great. And then I always love songs that then take it to 11. They just go one more notch higher, and so I really feel that we achieved that with this song, because now I introduced this tribal loop that really gives it this organic kind of energy, but then a few bars later add even yet another loop that's real dancey, and it just takes it up a notch. And I just love how this song develops through these 5.5 minutes, peaking with this last couple of rounds of this new chant. You know, it's this new chorus, which is Invisible Women.
Invisible with you. Invisible women. Invisible women. Invisible women. I wanna be invisible with you. Yeah, come on. Invisible women. Invisible women. Ooh, yeah. Invisible women. Invisible with you. Want to be with you. Invisible women.
And lastly, I think it's worth mentioning that this entire recording was essentially created in both of our home studios. So you don't need thousands and thousands of dollars anymore to create a great product. Get started, use what you have, and you can really come up with some great things. We did take it for final mixing and mastering to my good friend Jesse O'Brien at Colorado Sound, and I think that was the right decision because this song deserves it, and what beautiful finishing touches. So thanks very much, Jesse, for all your expertise and skill.
Nice work.
You too.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's a fun tune, right?
Super fun. It's a journey.
I know, it totally
Yeah.
is.
It's a lot of cool like scenes and
Yeah.
The other stuff, I'm like, well, I don't know what the occasion is. So,
Recording is the occasion.
maybe so. And I'm just going to get sappy for a second. Like I hadn't listened to it for a while, and then I heard it again. And you know what I could hear in it was our friendship. I could hear that. And it just like made me really just feel how much I appreciate you and appreciate doing this project with you. And this year that we took to do the song, I can just feel like how much we care about each other. I can feel that in the music, and it's really sweet, super sweet.
I really appreciate that. I feel the same.
Yeah.
Music is very powerful that way. It's a great uniter, and it's a great expression of, thoughts and emotions. And I think we came up with something really special. And now the song is finished, and it's this kind of epic 5.5 minute tune. And we'll see now what happens in trying to just get a lot of people to hear it and feel the inspiration from it.
That's all I want. That's all I want.
Every time I say goodbye, it's another hello. And every time I rise above, it's another below. I'm in a different world, it's strange and new. I realize I'm feeling fine. I'm feeling fine. I'm feeling fine. Every time I get ahead, it's another behind. And lately when I play the game, all the others go blind. Somebody changed the rules when I was asleep, and now I see this life is mine. Yeah. Oh, I may be invisible. All I'll say it's better than playing the fool. The more I learned, the less I knew. And here I stand in search of something new. And now I'm on the other side. The situation is clear. And now my eyes are open wide. And I see what is near. I see a million women standing round, invisible, and just like me. Oh, I may be invisible while I